The Quran says that, what's his name? Ahmed is mentioned in the Injeel, right?
Nice. Well, actually, it doesn't. It doesn't say Ahmed is mentioned in the Injeel.
Or it's mentioned in, it says Jesus said.
It says Jesus mentioned it.
Right. And now you're left with two options. Either you're left with the option of, if this is the case, then the gospel, the Mark, Matthew, and John didn't write it down. If that's the case, right? We're assuming. And if it's the case that they did write it down, then it's so. If we're going with the Quran's narrative,
no, that's not it at all.
No, if we're going with well, you're asking me where does the Quran?
It would mean that if we do not find in the gospel Jesus mentioning Ahmed to come, then the Quran lied.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up, man?
What's up? Are you Muslim?
Yeah.
Welcome.
So you asked, what is the Injeel? It's what was revealed to Jesus.
What was that? What was that?
What was revealed to him?
Yeah.
Well, the specifics we don't know, but we know it was the general message of oneness of God.
How do you know that?
Because the Quran tells us that.
The Quran tells you that that's what's in the Injeel, or is that the Quran tells you that Jesus said that?
No, the Quran tells us that all the prophets received the same message, roughly. So
then how do you know that? Okay. So did all the prophets receive the Injeel?
No. When did I say that?
You didn't, but that's my point. Is that if you're saying that all the prophets received the same message.
I didn't say not exact.
Well, you did. You just said that Jesus
roughly.
taught.
I said roughly the same message.
Okay. So maybe let's just start over. What was in the Injeel?
Okay. The specifics, as in like the exact laws, we do not know. However, we know that the general message of it was the Tawheed, the oneness of God, right?
How do you know?
Because of the Quran tells us that.
Where does the Quran tell you that in the Injeel, the general message was Tawheed?
Here, let me search it.
Now remember, I'm not asking where does Jesus himself say, worship one Lord and your Lord, my God, yada, yada. I'm not saying that. I'm asking, where does it say that that's in the Injeel?
That's the same concept, because whatever Jesus speaks of is revelation, and the revelation is the Injeel.
Whatever Jesus said is Injeel?
If he's speaking in regards to religion, yeah.
Where is it? I'm confused. Is whatever Jesus says the Injeel or not?
In regards to religion, like if Jesus says today is Friday, that's not the Injeel, right? That's not because it's not a revelation.
How do you know that?
Because it's not something that needs to be revealed. A revelation is something that needs to be revealed.
Well, so like for example, Pharaoh. The Quran records Pharaoh claiming that he was God, right?
Okay.
We already know this. This was in the Bible. This was in history. Everyone already knew that Pharaoh claimed to be God.
No, but the reason why he repeats old stories, the prophet in the Quran, or Allah repeats old stories in the Quran, is we have records of people asking. For example, the story of the people in the cave. They said, the Jews came to him and said, if you are truthful, tell me about this story.
Well, pause. Where does the Quran say that people were asking about Pharaoh and what happened with him?
The Quran never specifically mentions it. We go by outside sources.
Okay. Where in the outside source does it say that people were asking specifically about the story of Moses, and therefore that's why Allah recounted it in the Quran?
No, this is to be assumed, because I gave you the reference of if you want, I can give you the reference of the Jews coming and asking the prophet, if you are a truthful prophet, tell me about the story of the people in the cave.
Well, that's because they knew they was playing games with him. They were playing games with him. But
how does that?
But dude, showing an example where one time people ask him about a certain thing doesn't mean that that's the case for all times of all revelation.
Okay, you know so what exactly is your point?
My point is that the basis for what you don't have a basis for what you're saying. Like what you're saying about how you know what Jesus said is revelation and what isn't, you don't have a basis to judge that.
So in your argument, what is the Injeel to you?
I have it. It's in my Gospels.
Okay, so do you think your Gospels are preserved?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a Bible?
Do you disagree? You disagree that I have the Injeel?
I disagree that you have a preserved Bible. I don't think
that. Do you disagree? Do you agree or disagree that I have the Injeel?
I disagree. You don't have it.
Okay. How do you know that I don't have the Injeel?
Because you have words of Mark, Luke, John, and Matthew. The Quran never mentions that.
Okay. So who did write the Injeel then?
It's not a written book.
The Quran says it is.
No. When the Quran refers as a kitab, a book, it's referring to a revelation. The Quran wasn't originally written. When it was being overstepping. You're overstepping. No. When the Quran was being revealed to the prophet.
I'm trying to help you, bro. I'm trying to help you.
Oh, let me speak. When the Quran,
I am, but I'm serious. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm trying to help you. The Quran, I'm not talking about how it refers to it as a kitab. I'm saying that the Quran literally says that the Injeel was written, maktub.
Where does it say it was written down on a step or something?
Chapter 7, verse 157.
Let me see. 157?
Yes, sir.
Where does it say it was written? It says they are the ones who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whose description they find in their Torah and the gospel.
You see where it says description?
Yeah.
The word is not description. The word is written, which in Arabic is maktubin. I got you. I trust the Arabic speakers. So watch. Just watch. Okay? You trust Quran.com?
Yeah, I'm on it right now.
Perfect. You're on Quran.com. Why don't you hover over the word maktubin? The word for description, why don't you hover over it? Okay. I don't even got to do it. You can see it yourself.
Okay. I see.
You see how it's written?
But how does this prove preservation of it?
It proves that the Injeel is a written document. Now, my question is so look, your accusation against the New Testament or the gospel that I have that I don't have the Injeel is because what I have was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you're saying that the Quran doesn't mention them. So I asked you in turn then, who wrote it? So, of course, he was like, oh, well, it's not written. So now we know that it's written. So now we're going back to the original question. Who wrote the Injeel?
Okay, then in this case, I would just say we don't have the written one. We don't know who wrote it.
All right. So how do you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write the Injeel?
Well, we know that even if, well, first of all, these are like anonymous names. We don't really know much about these people. Second of all, so then we can't really say Mark wrote this. Who is Mark? It's just a name, right?
I disagree. But however, going with your point, that still doesn't answer the question. Let's say even these people are anonymous.
The reason we know that the original writers who wrote this Injeel, right, their written documents aren't with us today is because when we look at the preservation of it, the earliest complete gospels we find, or near complete, are 400 years after Jesus. And the earliest fragments, which are like credit card size, are 200 years after Jesus.
Do they match what I have today? Even though you're wrong, but do they match what I have today?
In your Bible, probably not.
They don't?
Do you have John 5:7 in your Bible?
Wait, you just matched Codex Sinaiticus. You just referenced that. Does what I have match Codex Sinaiticus?
I don't know what Bible you're using. Do you have John 5:7?
Wait, just answer the question, bro.
It depends on the Bible you're using.
Yeah. So notice the dishonesty. You can't even be.
It's not. Listen, wait. Can you answer me? Okay. Can you answer me?
Because what you're doing is you're trying to do the Muslim shuffle and shuffle away.
It's not.
So how about we do this? Let's do this. You said that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are anonymous. Is that a reason why you can't trust the gospel?
No, actually, that's not the main reason I wouldn't trust it.
Wait, I didn't say main. Is that a reason why you don't trust the gospel?
Personally, are you asking generally or personally?
I'm asking you.
No, that wouldn't be a necessarily reason.
Okay. So with the Injeel, you didn't still answer me how you know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write the Injeel.
I told you that it doesn't really matter if they did or they didn't.
Well, that's what you brought up because you said, first of all, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We know that it's not the Injeel because your gospel was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, while in the Quran it doesn't mention them. Therefore, what you have is not the Injeel. That's the first thing you brought up.
Okay, I was referring to, this is the reason I brought this up is because the Injeel is referred to as the gospel, not plural. It's not gospels. So it can't be. But if you're asking without the Quran, if you're asking me,
it's okay. Stick with the Quran. How many books are in the Torah?
I don't know the exact. I know the Old Testament's 5, right?
The Torah contains 5 books.
Okay.
Is the Torah singular or plural?
In the Quran or in general?
The word Torah in the Quran, anywhere.
It's singular.
Very good. So the word Torah is singular, yet it is made up of a plurality of books.
Right, but you don't refer to the Gospels as a gospel. You refer to them as Gospels.
No, we refer to it as the Gospel. Matter of fact, the church tradition, they used to call it the fourfold Gospel. So it could be referred to either or. It could be referred to as the Gospel, the Gospels, or the fourfold Gospel. We say Gospel all the time.
So you're saying that the Quran mentioning a singularity here isn't relevant. Is that what you're saying?
The Quran using the singular form of the word gospel means nothing because it uses the singular form of the word Torah, although the Torah is made up of 5 books.
Okay. So if the Injeel is referring to what was originally given to Jesus, and I say yes, it was written, and you said you have the Injeel, so how do you know that what you have now is what was written?
You're flipping it on me again. We're still back on the same question.
Well, it all ties back to the reliability of the Bible. That's what it all ties back to.
Say that again?
All of it ties back to the reliability of the Bible.
No, it doesn't. You said no. So I'm just showing you how your reasoning for rejecting the gospel that we have today is faulty because you believe the same things about the Injeel. For example, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you said are the writers of the gospel, supposedly, and so therefore it's not the Injeel because the Quran doesn't mention them. So how, but you don't know who wrote the Injeel. So my question still stands. How do you know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write the Injeel?
I already answered that. I told you I don't know, but I don't see it as a relevant question.
Okay, all right. So how about this then? Because it's relevant. Here's the reason why it's relevant. It's relevant because it was the first thing you brought up for your reasoning why I don't have the Injeel. Because your reasoning was the Injeel was not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. My gospel is, therefore, the Injeel and my gospel are not the same thing. But now we're at the point where actually you don't know who wrote the Injeel. It could have been Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Who knows? So then that reasoning to reject my gospel is out the window. Fair enough?
Okay, fair enough. So now let's go on to, do we have the Bible that we have now, is it the same Bible that was written at the time of Jesus or shortly after Jesus?
Well, actually, we'll go back to the original question. Because remember, you asked me if I have the Injeel. I said yes. My question was, how do you know I don't have it? How do you know?
Well, this all ties back to the reliability of the Bible, no?
How so?
Because the Injeel is still described as what was given to Jesus, right? And Jesus was born, or Jesus lived in the first century. So if we don't have what was in the first century, then we don't have the Injeel.
Interesting. Did the Christians in the 6th century have the Injeel?
The original Injeel?
No, do they have the Injeel? Because the Quran doesn't mention an original or not an original. It just mentions Injeel, period.
It mentions a corruption.
Okay. Where does it mention a corrupted Injeel?
It says, woe to those who write scripture with their own hands and
has nothing to do with the Injeel.
How? Then what is this referring to?
It's actually referring to some of the Jews who write books with their own hands in regards to their Torah, like putting it on the same level as the Torah. The Christians are not mentioned anywhere in that text, nor is the Injeel. The whole context is about the Torah and some of what some of the Jews are doing.
So your claim is that nowhere in the Quran does it say, it's very simple. The Quran says that, what's his name? Ahmed is mentioned in the Injeel, right?
Nice. Well, actually it doesn't. It doesn't say Ahmed is mentioned in the Injeel.
Or it's mentioned in, it says Jesus said.
It says Jesus mentioned.
Right. And now you're left with two options. Either you're left with the option of, if this is the case, then the gospel, the Mark, Matthew, and John didn't write it down. If that's the case, right? We're assuming. And if it's the case that they did write it down, then it's, so if we're going with the Quran's narrative.
No, that's not it at all.
No, if we're going with well, you're asking me, where does the Quran?
It would mean that if we do not find in the gospel Jesus mentioning Ahmed to come, then the Quran lied.
No. But you're asking based off the Quran, right?
No,
so
I'm
you're
not.
presupposing, you're saying, where does the Quran say that?
Well, that's based off your belief.
Right. So if you're asking based off my belief, right, and you're based off
you're missing it. The only time I'm referencing the Quran is when you bring up reasoning that backfires against you. Okay? That's the reason why I'm bringing up the Quran. So if you don't bring up, reasoning that backbites you, I don't have a problem I can leave the Quran alone if you're being consistent,
No, you're missing my point, right? You're asking me where the Quran says that the Injeel was corrupted.
Yeah, you're a Muslim. You believe,
right.
Yeah.
So if I'm going off my Quranic belief, then the Quran would force me to the belief that the Injeel was corrupted. That's the argument I'm bringing.
Well, okay, no. See, what the Quran would do is the Quran would force you to believe that the Quran itself is false, because the Quran affirms the Injeel, says the Injeel is preserved and reliable and is accessible. And when we go into the Injeel, as the Quran says, we should find Muhammad. And when we do that and we don't find Muhammad, then the Quran is false.
No.
So the Quran forces you to know that the Quran is false.
You asked me earlier, where in the Quran does it say the Injeel was corrupted, right? And then now you're saying that the Quran says the Injeel was preserved and what was the other word you used? You said the
reliable,
Injeel was preserved
authoritative,
and
you have access to it.
You asked for a word for word, basically. So where in the Quran is there a word for word that the Injeel is reliable and trustworthy?
So I didn't ask you for word for word.
That's what you were.
No, I'm asking you to prove and substantiate what you say.
Yeah, and I'm giving my reasoning based off the Quran, and you're just saying.
Yeah, and I refute it.
No. Because I'm saying that from the Quran, it would force me to the belief that the Injeel is corrupted. And you're saying, no, that just means the Quran is false, right? That's not an argument. You're just presupposing it's false based off that.
I'm not presupposing it. It's the logical conclusion. If the Quran makes a claim, if the Quran makes a claim, right? And then we see that the claim is false, then the Quran is false.
No. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, right? Just because you don't see it in...
If the Quran makes a claim and says, I can go in this source and find something, and I don't, that means that there's no evidence for what the Quran says. Actually, the evidence works against the Quran. So there's evidence that the Quran is false.
No. You yourself said that it didn't say in the Injeel it was Ahmed. It says Jesus said.
But you yourself said that everything Jesus said in regards to religion is Injeel.
No, I said it's revelation.
Which is Injeel, right?
Some of it maybe, some of it's not.
Well, no. Don't change now. You said that everything that Jesus said regarding is the Injeel because it's revelation.
Then I changed my mind.
Wait, you just changed it just now?
Yeah, because I realized. I mean, it makes sense actually because in the Quran you have the same thing. Not every.
Oh man,
it's the same thing.
So wait, so there's things in the Quran that's not revelation.
There's revelation that's not in the Quran.
Okay. So you're saying that. You're saying that Jesus mentioning Ahmed may be in the hadith of Jesus.
No, what? I'm saying that the hadith is just a compilation or a saying of someone. So in that sense, if you want to say that's what the hadith means, then sure, you can go with that. But we don't have the hadith, right?
Okay. Do you have revelation that Jesus gave that exists outside of the Quran?
Revelation.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Do you have revelation that Jesus revealed, right? That is outside of the Injeel?
I'm outside of the Injeel, I would assume. So yeah, because the Quran follows the same line of logic.
Where do you get this from? That there's revelation from Jesus that is outside of the Injeel. Where do you get that from? Because please don't make it up. Where do you get that from? Because I'm going to ask you to show me.
So in the Quran, you have revelation given to the prophet that is not in the Quran. So we can suppose that the same is in the case of Jesus.
Why?
Because it's just, there's no reason to think not. That's why.
Yeah, the reason to think not is that we don't have that anywhere. So why would you assert that there is this thing? This imaginary source that has Jesus' revelation.
Once again, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I mean, even in your own Bible.
Okay, how about this?
One second. You agree that in your own Bible.
No, can I just then, since you do not have evidence to back up your claim and assertion, then I can just dismiss your claim without evidence.
But you're asking me what my belief is.
No, I didn't ask for belief. I'm asking for fact and what is, not what you think, what you believe.
So if you're asking for a fact of what is in the Quran and you don't believe in the Quran,
I didn't say what is in the Quran.
None of it is fact.
Again, here was my question. My question was, is there, not do you think there is, no, do you believe? No, is there revelation from Jesus that's not in the Injeel?
I have no way to prove that there was or wasn't.
So then why would you even suggest the other?
Because there is more reason to believe that there is than there is.
You have no reason to believe it.
I just gave you the reason.
No, you didn't. That had to do with the Injeel. That had nothing to do with the Injeel.
If the last prophet had revelation outside of the Quran, then we can suppose that Jesus had revelation outside of the Injeel.
Why?
Because we have no reason to think otherwise.
You have no reason to think wise. You have no reason to think wise.
That is the reason. The reason is that they share similarities.
So you guys could just make up stuff. I like that. Y'all can just make up stuff.
No,
you make up stuff, and that's cool. That's cool. It's all right. I can make up stuff. You can make up stuff, and you gotta just take it as, and I gotta take it as fact. Okay. I can make up stuff and just take it.
Back when I asked you, right, in the Bible, you would agree that the gospel writers themselves said, we are not able to write everything that Jesus said.
No, did.
I said it's an action. It's the same.
No, it's not.
It's in the same sense.
It's not the same.
So you're saying every single word Jesus said, the Gospels wrote down, every single one.
But in regards to Revelation, yeah.
Okay. Why is it that I and the Father are one is only found in John? Why didn't Mark write that down?
Because that's not the account that he wrote down.
So only John.
What does that have to do with anything?
Because it's showing that they didn't write everything they saw down. They themselves said they didn't write everything.
But hold on. Saying that one writer writes something that another writer didn't, to then conclude that therefore we don't have everything that Jesus said and revealed, is faulty. How do you conclude that? Can you help me bring it to conclusion?
Is the right?
If Mark doesn't write down what John says, therefore we don't have all of what Jesus said.
It ties back to the Bible verse that says we cannot write everything that Jesus did.
That has nothing to do with that.
It does.
Please help me out. Mark wrote down an account. John wrote things that Mark didn't. Mark wrote things that John didn't. How does that equal missing some things that Jesus revealed?
Because once again, it shows, you're telling me that John was the only witness there. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
He's the only one that accounted it. What's the problem?
He's the only one that witnessed it.
How does that prove? How does that show that there's things that Jesus revealed that were missing?
Oh, don't say accounted it, because now you're in dangerous territory. Because if Mark accounted it and he didn't write it, then
notice how you can't deal with any argument.
Why are you running away?
Do you see this? You can't even conclude what you
did you hear what you just said?
I'm gonna challenge you to finish the syllogism. Prove the conclusion. You said John wrote things down that Jesus revealed that Mark didn't. Therefore, we don't have all the revelation of Jesus.
And I
need you to link that. Make that conclusion.
So let me speak now, right? I asked you afterwards, are you saying John is the only one who witnessed it? You said that he is the only one who wrote it down. That's what you said, correct? What did you say?
That's correct. Now, please answer the conclusion.
So he's the only one. Okay, so do you believe he's the only one who witnessed it?
Asking me another question does not substantiate your conclusion.
Because it gets me to the point. If I'm just going to make claims that you don't agree with, you're just going to say no.
You're just repeating yourself. I need you, because notice how I was able to repeat your argument, and now I'm asking for you to substantiate your conclusion.
Right.
Do that for me. Just do it. Okay, look, logic. Look, this is how it is.
Right.
The reason why Matthew writing something that John didn't, or John writing something that Mark didn't, means that we are missing a revelation that Jesus gave is because
it proves that some of the gospel writers didn't write down what they had witnessed. The reason why this proves it is because you are making the absurd claim that only John witnessed Jesus, claiming to be I and the Father are one. Such a huge claim. Only John witnessed it. That is insane. That is insane.
Let me ask you a question based on this conclusion, then we're going to move on, because you still are not substantiating. If Mark doesn't say something that John does that mean that we are missing something that Jesus said?
It shows that there is room for missing verses.
No. Does that mean, I didn't ask him does that mean that we are missing something that Jesus said?
The evidence points to it, yes. If you're asking for 100%.
So it's just more assertions and just more claims, bro.
What, you want me to get some proof?
I'm talking to a guy who can just make up anything on the spot, no substantiation, no proof, no anything. You could just say whatever you want. How can you even have a conversation?
I'm telling you, the evidence points to it.
What evidence? Again, what evidence?
Evidence.
For example, if I am accounting our conversation and you are accounting our conversation, and let's say I marked down something in our conversation that you happened to not. You didn't mark it down. You didn't record it in your writing, in your account of our. Does that mean that what was said between us is now missing? That there's something in between?
That is an absurd analogy. Let me give you a more accurate.
No, just answer the question, please.
No. That is an absurd analogy. It's an absurd analogy. It doesn't apply.